Alright guys, let's build a preset. We're not going to overthink this too much. We're just going to do what we like, you know? In my case, that's something that's kind of vintage modern, I guess. Maybe that's kind of a vanilla thing, but it is what it is. Love it or hate it, I don't care. Learn some things with me. Okay, so playing a Telecaster. It's got some pretty hot single coils here, and yeah, we want to make it sound better than some dry crap into a computer. So that's what we're gonna do. I'm playing this Telecaster into the HX Stomp, and we're gonna start by basically tweaking an amp to the way I like it. Um, First thing that I do when I'm building a preset for my Telecaster specifically is I turn on the noise gate on the input. It saves me a block from having to put one in somewhere else, and I just do it because it's kind of a noisy guitar. It is what it is. But with that on, I can have almost any kind of high gain amp that I want, and it still stays quiet. So it works really nicely. And okay, so I'm just gonna build a kind of, I don't know, basement dad kind of rig, and you guys can kind of follow along. So I start off with the amp. I think that's a sensible place to start, and I think most of us have an idea of what we kind of like in real life. But if you don't, I would just suggest trying everything. Spend a day just going through them all and see how it goes. I've kind of narrowed my favorite down between a few, depending on what I'm doing. And for this video, we're going to use the matchstick. So the matchstick, I'm pretty sure, is a matchless, as the name might imply. And I'm going to use the jump version. So I think that's supposed to be channel 1 and channel 2 jump together in real life. I don't know. I haven't used a real amp in years, so who knows? I have a cab in mind already. It's kind of just what I like. And we're going to use the 4x12 greenback 25 with a mic, the 57 dynamic. We'll keep it 1 inch away for now, and we're going to turn the early reflections up to 30%. That's just what I like. And here's what that sounds like. It's kind of flubby and gross, but I'm hoping we're going to be able to fix that. So come along as I dive into the amp settings. Um, First things first, I'm going to lower the drive a little bit here. I'm going to keep it a little bit higher in channel 2 because it's a little bit brighter. And I like that. I'm going to turn the bass down a little bit because it's kind of boomy right now. And the treble up because I like a bright guitar sound. The tone, I'm going to put this down to 2. It just kind of feels brighter there than it does later on in the settings. I don't know. It's almost imperceivable. I don't know what's going on there, but I'm going to leave it the way it is. Channel volume I'm going to bump up to 8 because it just almost always needs a little bit more, I find, when you're playing like a cleaner tone. And that's about where we're at now. Presence is something that I kind of tend to like. I don't really like dark tones. I think I mentioned I kind of like bright tones earlier. That's a little bit much. I'll bump this down a little bit. Okay. Seghum, Ripple, Bias, and Bias X. I don't know what to say about these things. I don't understand them at all. But my general rule is play with them and find a thing that you like. So here's what I do. One extreme to the other. It seems when the sag is all the way up. It's a little bit more sparkly, but a little bit more sounding like the amp is further away. I'm not sure I like presence. In the middle is kind of nice because it's not too much in your face, not too far away. We'll go with that. Now the hum. All the way down. All the way up. And again, here, ripple. Yeah, I don't know. I've watched a bunch of videos on these settings, and to this day, I don't understand them, but that's fine. I'm just trying to make a sound that I like in my ears. Lowering the bias tends to clean the amp up a little bit. Maybe I'm wrong here. Higher bias is a little bit. I don't know. That sounds really good to me. So, next thing, and apologies for the sounds of my dog shredding cardboard behind me. I've got the amp, I've got the cab. Now, the thing about playing through headphones that I find is kind of like blah, is you obviously lack the feeling of space in your sound. So I always add to the end of my chain a stereo, either a hall, plate, or dynamic room. Like it's pretty much always one of these three. We'll start with the room, because I think I'm going to use another reverb as well. Sounds nice. The hall's a little too intense. Like, I don't know. It's kind of out of control a little bit. At least the way that it's set. Stop. I find the plate actually does a really good job of sounding like a real room. And sometimes I actually like it better than a dynamic room, because a dynamic room kind of sounds like a room full of furniture, whereas I find the dynamic plate sounds a little bit more like a room that's empty. I don't know if that makes sense to you guys, but it's like there's less capturing the reverberation in the room. And, well, I mean, I know it's not really a room. A plate reverb is like a giant plate thing, but it sounds like a space, especially with stereo headphones on. It's really nice. Yeah, I think we'll stick with this. I usually go with a little bit more decay than that, like 3.5 to 4 seconds. Even if that means lowering the mix a little bit. 25% there. Okay. I think that sounds nice. It might be still lacking a traditional amp feel, or like a little something, right? Like, and to kind of get it there, what I like to do sometimes is use a reverb, specifically the 63 spring, in between the amp and the cab to kind of emulate a real spring reverb. So that makes it a little bit more like an amp with reverb in a room. If that makes sense. I'm going to lower the plate a little bit to compensate for that. Yeah, okay. Maybe lower this mix a little bit too. Nice. I like it. Another thing that vintagey amps usually have is a tremolo. So you can add one of those in there. And that can really warm it up sometimes. Even if you set it fairly low. Okay, so I don't know. I like it. Other than my guitar cutting out. Either it's for you or it's not. It doesn't have to be. That's fine. But it sounds a lot better than it did when I first put that amp and that cab onto the signal chain. So what do you do with this? I think that would be the next question is like, where do you go from here? How do you make it useful and that sort of thing? So I'll dive into that a little bit. So the first thing obviously should be saving your preset. So I'll call this like the tutorial preset. And I'm going to save it. So right now, there's not really a lot going on here. If you were to look at my stomp, which I can show you, there's nothing assigned to any switches. It's just kind of like, a useless brick on the floor right now. Just tells you that you're on tutorial preset and snapshot 1. And really, that's not going to be the most helpful thing. So here we go. Let's fix that. Okay. If you were to want to say have like a lead tone, a rhythm tone, and a clean tone, we'll go with that because it's kind of common, and I think it's pretty easy to understand what I mean by these things. So I'm going to add another effect here, and it's going to be a delay. I'm going to add a stereo delay just because it's fun, and I use headphones. So these things can kind of sound cool. I'm not going for anything intense here. This is just going to be part of the lead tone, probably. But I'll make it switchable for the other channels as well, for the other snapshots. Nice. Okay, so that's pretty good. And I'm going to turn it off for now. Okay, so snapshot 1. This is where we are right now, and I'm going to make this my clean sound, and just keep in mind that when I say clean, I really mean whatever this is to you. I know it's kind of a little overdriven depending on how I'm playing, but that's my clean, okay? So in this snapshot, I'm going to have the amp and everything set the way that it currently is. So the spring reverb is going to be on, and the plate reverb is going to be on. There's certain things that I'm going to leave on all the time. So it'll be the amp, the cab, and the reverb. Everything else is going to be kind of here and there depending on what I'm doing. So one thing that you have to know is each snapshot is its own thing. So you have to save every time that you like make a change in a snapshot. And that's super important. Otherwise, you're going to kind of screw yourself up a little bit. So you don't want that. So I have everything the way that I want it set for snapshot 1. How do I make it so that it is accessible on the stomp and, on a button basically? And here's how I'm going to do that. Well, really, I'm going to back that up. We're going to create the other snapshots first, and then we'll get to that. Okay, so move on to snapshot 2, and this is going to be our crunch snapshot. It's kind of like the rhythmy thing, you're playing some rock music. And we're going to change this one to be light orange, and the clean I'm going to have be turquoise. Okay, so the crunch is going to be a little bit more driven than the clean channel. So this is how it's going to go. I'm going to right click here and change this to snapshots on the drive settings. And I'm also going to do the channel volume and the master volume just in case I need to compensate, because when you turn up the drive, obviously it can be louder and a little bit more out of control. So what we're going to do here is basically change it so that on snapshot 2, the drive is going to come up. Okay. Beautiful. I kind of like it the way it is. But I'm also going to take this spring reverb off. And in here, I'm going to change this mix to snapshots. I give myself a little bit more mix on this reverb when I'm on this channel, because it doesn't have that spring reverb as well. Okay, so now when I go back to snapshot 1, what should happen is basically save. You should be able to see all the settings that I change when I switch back to snapshot 1. So basically, the spring reverb should come back on, and the channel's drives should come down as well. So here we go. There you go. So snapshot 1, snapshot 2. That's a little excessive with reverb. Beautiful. Okay, now we need to have ourselves something that's just like crazy as far as drive and stuff goes for the lead, right? Obviously, we're playing in a big arena and we need to blow people's faces away, so we're gonna have this be the lead. And here's how we're gonna do that. So basically, these things are still set to snapshots, so I can still change them as much as I want, and they'll change with the snapshot. So we'll time this, we'll time this. How's that sound? Cool. I like it. But we want to turn that delay on, right? A little too much feedback in the delay. Okay. That's good enough for now. Um, it doesn't need to be the perfect preset or anything. I'm just trying to get some ideas across here. So you're stuck with this terrible tone, and you're gonna have to deal with it. So let's review. Crunch. Crunch. Lead. Okay. So the stomp is still just a brick on the floor. Really not being much use. And this is what we need to change, because I know, obviously, right now, this isn't what anybody wants. So. Okay. Basically, we're going to start diving into Command Center a little bit. And to do that, we go to Window, Command Center. And once you're in here, you're going to have a window here, which lets you set your Command Center per snapshot. This is very important. If you do not do this properly, you have all sorts of problems, and you don't want that. So I'll show you guys a little bit about what these various things are, and we can kind of go from there. So we have expression pedal 1 and expression pedal 2. You can set these to do various MIDI commands. I don't really need that. I'm probably going to set the expression pedal on this one to be volume. In fact, let's just do that now. So in here, oh, maybe I don't have enough DSP left. Seems to be the case. Okay, back to Command Center. Here's what we do. We have foot switch 1, foot switch 2, foot switch 3. These are the 3 foot switches on the stomp. These lightning bolts are instant commands, and these instant commands are going to be sent as soon as you recall the snapshot. So these can be various things, as you see in this list. So I don't know, you can think of various things to do with them, I'm sure, but I don't really use them very much. They're really handy if you're using external gear. So we want to set basically foot switch 1 to be snapshot 1, foot switch 2 to be snapshot 3, and foot switch 3 to be snapshot 3, but that's kind of the basic way, but it's not really exactly what we're going to do. So we just want to have basically versatility on 3 switches to access the snapshots as required. And what I'm trying to get to here, and what I'm trying to say is basically, on snapshot 1, you don't need to have foot switch 1 be snapshot 1 because you're already in snapshot 1. So we're going to change this one basically to be something else. So on this one, which is the second button in, I'm going to have it go to snapshot 2. So when I press the button, snapshot 2 will be engaged. And if you look here, it just showed up there. And you can see it says crunch because I named that snapshot crunch, and you can see that the LED is orange because that's the color that I chose when I was making the preset, or the snapshot, I mean. So we're going to continue on here. Okay, so in snapshot 1, we also want to be able to access the other 2 snapshots basically. So we want one that's also going to be snapshot 3. So when I'm looking down now, I see blank button, crunch, lead. And I'm going to save what I'm doing here, and I know what I want is to have this delay on my first button, because it's kind of fun. Delays are just kind of one of those things that sometimes you just want to add a little bit. And so I'm going to set the bypass to foot switch 1. So now when I look down at the stomp, I'm looking at basically the delay, that's the green thing, and then the crunch and the lead. And when I go to snapshot 2, I'm going to change the snapshots, but I'm not going to change the delay. So we're going to go back up here. And back into Command Center. On crunch 2, on snapshot 2, which is the crunch one, notice that it says next instead of being what it was on the first snapshot. So this is the part where the versatility kind of comes in, because you don't have to have the same buttons displayed on the stomp in every snapshot. It can be different per snapshot. So when we're on snapshot 2, we want the snapshots visible on the stomp to be 1 and 3, because those are the ones that we're not in. So when I look down now, I'm seeing vintage, digital delay, clean, and lead, because I'm in the crunch. So I don't need crunch, I just need the other 2. I'm going to save it, go back to Command Center, and go to the third one, and change these to snapshot 2 and snapshot 1. Or maybe I'll go snapshot 1 and snapshot 2. There. Okay, so now when I'm looking down, I see a useful thing instead of a brick, which is kind of nice. I have the ability to turn that delay on and off. It's on. That's off. Okay. We're in the lead snapshot, as you can see here. So as I'm hitting the buttons with my feet, you should be able to see these things change. Okay, so let's go to the clean channel. Add the delay in. Right? Turn the delay off. Go to the crunch channel. Back to clean. Over to lead. And yeah, that's really about it. I know this isn't the most in-depth thing, and it's not like a crazy preset with crazy routings and stuff, but I think a lot of guys who are having a hard time with this are typically guys who are coming from actually much more simplistic rigs, and it seems like part of the challenge with the stomp is really options paralysis and just not knowing where to start. And I think you just have to go through it and think about it like I have an amp and I have a pedal board, and that's really what you're building. So your preset is going to be your pedal board. It's this thing here that you see. And the way that I typically do this, you might be able to see along my preset here. I have some songs in my thing here. And the way I typically go about it is basically I think about the preset being for the song, and I think about the snapshots being for the song part. So it might be for like the intro, the verse, and the chorus, or intro, verse, chorus, bridge, whatever it happens to be. I try to set my snapshots per song part because I don't want to have to tap dance around to change a bunch of stuff. Not that I really have the option. I have 4 buttons on my board, but I don't want to have to touch more than one thing to change a sound. It's too much for me. I think, why would you if you don't have to? And yeah, that's kind of the way I go about it. So you really start by keeping it simple, and you just kind of go with like, you know, I guess what you would typically use in real life. Start there. Start with an amp that's like your amp. Start with a cab that's like your cab, and then put it into a room, and then add your other effects into it in a way that makes sense to you. To me, I think things that would typically go in the effects loop would be in between the amp and the cab. Things that would be before the amp are obviously before the amp. So if I was using drive pedals, I would put them here. Um, but I typically don't these days. I find the amps do pretty much everything I need them to do. And then I go from there. I use the delay and the verb after the cab. This is a preference thing. You don't have to do that, but I think the space emulation type of verb should be after the cab because you're trying to emulate the cab being in a room, not the room being in a cab. Um, but it's not to say that it can't sound good the other way. It's just this is the way that I kind of go about thinking about it, right? I try to build something that's like something that you would use in real life. Um, yeah, I think that's about it. I'm going to hit save again because if I don't, then probably everything's gone. So just to recap, clean. It's got that drippy reverb thing going on. A little bit of delay added. Then we got the crunch with some delay added as well. And then we've got the lead. Yeah. Well, I hope that's helpful. Enjoy, guys.